I'm gonna say this up front. There's a lot to like about Errant Signal's Bioshock Infinite video. He speaks a lot more coherently than I ever could, and his voice is delightful to listen to. Ultimately, his presentation is the best part of his videos, and that's very important when so much of his video is just this.
About a fifth of the game seems to stem from a place that at least has ambitions of being artful, of saying something that connects with people. But the remaining 80% is gunshots, explosions, and magical space booze that gives you colorful superpowers as you slaughter racist religious zealots in a city in the sky with your nine-fingered companion who can take you to alternate dimensions. Do you see how that might conflict with the grounded emotions and empathetic truths a little bit? One fundamentally opposes the other, and you can't have both.
And that's a great irony here. I never heard of Camster before his Infinite video, and his arguments were so well presented that I subscribed to him despite my vehement disagreements. It was only after I consumed a significant amount of his work that I realized that there were numerous flaws and contradictions with respect to his arguments against Infinite. Instead of telling you all this, how about I show you? Camster begins by making a lot of buttery claims about the good of Infinite to try and get fans to agree with what he's about to say next.
I'm gonna say this up front. There's a lot to love in Bioshock Infinite. The game is one of the most jaw droppingly gorgeous games in recent memory, thanks mostly to some deft art direction. It evokes a turn of the century charm with an almost Norman Rockwell sense of idealism. And the visuals are steeped in a three-pronged soundtrack that has original scores, licensed period music, and old timey covers of pop songs from the last 50 years. It's hard not to be moved at some point during the game, either by jaw droppingly gorgeous vistas or cleverly rearranged covers of a song.
He has admitted in recent years that this opening is just to placate fans of Infinite, which was fairly obvious at the time. Unfortunately, I can actually think and assess. Just because you say nice things about the game doesn't mean I'm going to turn a blind eye to faulty or flat out incorrect arguments. That being said, I'm going to reveal my own thoughts on the visuals. The game looks pretty, but I don't find it particularly gorgeous until we see Columbia in flames. For me, the hook was the tension, the mystery, and the action. Yes, the action. But I'll reserve my commentary on that for later.
To top that off, there are moments of real, genuine human empathy here. Elizabeth and Booker's song in the basement of the shantytown bar is obviously a highlight of the game, but there are smaller moments. Hearing how Preston Downs moves from Comstock's pocket to a member of the Resistance, a Titanic style scene where a woman is sobbing that she can't make the jump to the lifeboat, Booker's sudden panic and rejection of his baptism. These are emotionally charged scenes that feel like real things that real people would do. They're effective, grounded, honest. They give the game a much needed sense of humanity because so much of the game is, well, this.
Stop him! Stop him! The false shepherd got to lead our lamb astray!
And? I don't get. How are these at odds with each other? Has Camster never read an old epic like Beowulf and the Odyssey? Both of which discuss deep and personal and human concepts in between bouts of violence?
Which wouldn't be out of place in most games, but Bioshock Infinite doesn't want to be most games. It wants to be important, it wants to say something, but it thinks it can do that without addressing its absurd, stilted, floaty, gory gameplay, and more than anything, that's why it fails.
I must have missed Camster's rant about Full Metal Alchemist trying to say something about humanity's ability to overcome great hardships in between sci fi fantasy conflicts, or his rant about how Beowulf tries to tell a story about how time catches up with all of us in between bouts of bloody, gory fights.
Sure, we could wax philosophical about the game's ending, but that's 20 minutes of barely interactive play made memorable by a plot twist.
First off, multiple twists, Camster. Multiple twists. Second, the scene is also memorable for its abstract imagery. Third, you yourself cite not one, but two scenes in that sequence that you love and remember, so it's obviously memorable for more than one twist.
And while it is neat and it does have some of the best moments of the game, it doesn't justify the 7 hours that came before it any more than making people watch a good Twilight Zone episode can justify making them watch 7 hours of homemade snuff films.
This is more a case about the low quality of the rest of the game before it, and I'll get to that when he says something specific.
About a fifth of the game seems to stem from a place that at least has ambitions of being artful, of saying something that connects with people. But the remaining 80% is gunshots, explosions, and magical space booze that gives you colorful superpowers as you slaughter racist religious zealots in a city in the sky with your nine-fingered companion who can take you to alternate dimensions. Do you see how that might conflict with the grounded emotions and empathetic truths a little bit? One fundamentally opposes the other, and you can't have both.
Bear in mind, Campster isn't saying you can't discuss politics and have violence. That would be equally fallacious, but he isn't saying that here. He's saying you can't have violence and heartfelt characters. It doesn't matter how well justified it is by the plot, though I suspect Campster doesn't even know the plot. You shouldn't have them side by side at all. And this just laughs in the face of countless stories told since the dawn of time. Star Wars tells the story of romance, friendship, and the son redeeming the father, all in between sequences of trash compactor monsters, planet destroying laser guns, space cowboys, space wizards, and Ewoks. One fundamentally opposes the other, and you can't have both. The Lord of the Rings tells a story about how the smallest and weakest among us can take a stand to make the world a better place, complete with the loving bond of two friends as they strive against grave hardships, while the rest of it features dwarves and orcs, crazy war scenes, and a magical ring that turns people invisible. One fundamentally opposes the other, and you can't have both. Doctor Who features an extremely believable and heart-wrenching scene between the Doctor and the Master in the series 3 finale, and this is in between clashes with vampires, werewolves, various zombies, and Doctor, did you set off Pompeii? You rascal. And while it's true that the Doctor doesn't kill to the extreme degrees as Booker, if you ignore the genocide of his own people anyway, there's loads of ridiculous sci-fi elements before, during, and after this episode. One fundamentally opposes the other, and you can't have both. By the logic just espoused by Campster, all of these stories are equally bad. And that's the heart of this ludonarrative dissonance problem. Countless books and movies have done the same thing, yet critics in our medium are desperate to claim that these concepts are at odds, all without explaining the difference. In general, Campster's assessment is shallow and shows a poor understanding of pacing and structure. Let's look at his assessment of the DLC Burial at Sea for a reference.
Answer is in the sunken part of the city where everybody is splicers, and it looks exactly like the first Bioshock game. I was like, oh, really?
It suffers the exact same problem of Bioshock Infinite in that regard, where it's like an opening that whether it has flaws or not is like non-violent and kind of universe building y, and then when they decide to start the combat, it's like, well, done with the universe building and story, go shoot some crap for 3 hours, and that's sort of what the game does, where it's like, I don't want to spoil anything, but basically yes, everyone down in this buried bit of Rapture is a splicer for various reasons, and it's dumb.
Does Campster not know what the 3-act structure is? I'll give you all a quick refresher. Act 1 is when you introduce the characters and conflict. It ends when the conflict is set in motion. Act 2 is the majority of the story, developing the world, plot, and characters in between the conflict until the final turning point, in which the characters reach the darkest hour. The third act is the climax and following action. Just look at A New Hope. While it did start with a lot of action, it ground to a halt pretty quickly once the droids wound up on Tatooine. After that, we got a mostly character retrospection of Luke, giving us his wants and needs with the tension of the Empire in the background. Same goes for Die Hard, which didn't start with any action at all. It mostly focused on introducing us to John McClane and showing us the personal conflict between him and his wife before Hans Gruber makes his move. Again with The Lord of the Rings, we start off with a chunk of exposition laced with war scenes. Then we spend the majority of the first hour in the leisurely setting of the Shire, with no trace of serious action until Frodo is given the One Ring. The only way you wouldn't know this is if you had your head in the ground, only consuming primary school teacher-approved literature. In such a scenario, you would honestly believe that every action-adventure story is the Two Brothers skit from Rick and Morty, but they're not. I speak from experience. I write action adventures all the time, and my biggest problem starting out was pacing myself, appreciating those slow moments and developing the character's intention accordingly. In other words, giving the audience a chance to breathe. But let's take a closer look at Infinite and Burial Sea's beginnings. While Infinite doesn't necessarily start with an action scene, It does start with a foreboding conversation between Booker and Elizabeth, making it clear that something serious will happen later. After that, we wake up on the boat that's ferrying us to the lighthouse. There, Booker is given his suitcase, in which we are given multiple key details. 1. Booker is a wounded knee veteran, meaning that he's done and seen some serious action. 2. There is a pistol in the briefcase, which he takes out, communicating that Booker is about to do something that involves violence. 3. We see Booker look over instructions pertaining to Elizabeth, telling us that she's the object of the conflict. After he gets to the lighthouse, things get ominous. We see a sign threatening Booker to complete his job, complete with a bloodstain. Further, Booker calls out for someone, and no one answers, telling us that something is wrong. Finally, we see a corpse tied to a chair, with the sign, "Don't disappoint us," clear and obvious.
Shit.
All of this establishes that Booker is working for a shady group of villainous characters, and that failure is not an option. Most of all, it tells us that this job will likely involve action if his employers felt the need to make this threat. So, while we did get a lot of slow, world-developing moments at the start, Booker's outing and fight at the raffle was meant to be the turning point that sent the conflict into action, while everything in the lighthouse served to hint that this would come. If you went through all of this and thought that the violence was out of place, then you are a poor analyst. Next, let's look at Burial at Sea. Now, I'm no fan of Burial at Sea. I think it greatly hurt the lore of both games it was trying to patch together. However, the pacing between the start and the action is not as clumsily handled as Kempster would have you believe. To start with, we get a flashback to the ending of the main game, which set everything in motion. This informs us that the end has some connection to this crisis. Next, we get Elizabeth telling us that the girl Booker looked after is still alive and in danger, setting the stakes.
Well, you got a name, miss?
Elizabeth. You can call me Elizabeth.
What can I do for you?
There's a girl who needs to be found. Maybe you've seen her.
This girl. This girl's dead.
You know her.
You'll see dozens of her tied down by the docks or the slums in Apollo Square. Orphans. With Fontaine's charity shut. No place for them.
But her you know.
As I said, girl's dead.
Lost.
Look, I don't know where you get...
Lost isn't dead. Name your rate, I will pay you for this work. But you do this one gratis, wouldn't you?
I don't follow.
Something tells me you will.
Throughout the rest of this beginning portion, we learn through little details and expositional lines that there is a department store sunken and cut off from Rapture, full of Fontaine's old crew as a prison. Given that this is a den of criminals now, it is set up as a dark and dangerous place, complete with serious damage and water leakage as a result of being cut off.
Ryan's been good to me. Few are the patrons who truly understand the struggle of the artist. But even I was a little leery when he shuttered Fontaine's business and sent that bald buck to a grave deep in the briny. But when Ryan buried all of Fontaine's pals in that department store, someone had to find a home for all those freshly minted orphans. And if I turned $1 or $2 in the process, you can hardly blame me for doing well by doing good.
Fontaine got taken out by Ryan's goons for one reason only. He built a better mousetrap.
Don't want to get us both rounded up?
So you admit that Ryan's rounding people up.
It was a figure of speech.
I'm not calling the Captain Black as a figure of speech.
I keep my head low and I do my job.
Like a good job.
Now, is that a figure of speech?
That unpleasantness with Fontaine seems so far beyond us.
I hope all of this crowd are enjoying themselves. Locked up forever.
Gotta hand it to the old man. Locking up Fontaine's thugs in his own department store. That's poetic justice.
When Ryan take over Fontaine Futuristics, scene of a terrible violence. Splicers burning each other to bits. Lucky ones not killed, sent to department store prison instead. Suchong think he dead man too. But then Ryan comes to Suchong and says, Suchong want to be buried in filthy store, or Suchong want to make a good salary? Work for Ryan. How much salary? Asks Suchong. This Ryan find very funny.
I understand why Ryan wants to lock all of Fontaine's men up in that department store, but why on earth should we have to feed them? Isn't a prisoner just another parasite?
What you want to do, Irene? Hang them all?
You said it, not me.
So, when we see Booker and Elizabeth making their way there via bathysphere, we know what to expect. The imagery around it helps, as it looks dank and decrepit, complete with commentary from Booker and Elizabeth.
Look.
Fontaine's. Ryan sent the whole thing to the bottom.
But it's a prison now. Why would Cohen have sent Sally there?
I don't know.
Everyone has needs. I merely provide a service for those who have the means to pay. You'll find your little bird in the housewares department.
How many people do you suppose Ryan's got locked up in that place?
Enough. Fontaine had amassed something near an army. Now they're down there, spliced up and wild. All right, there's a dock up ahead.
Takes a cold son of a bitch to do that to a living person.
What's that?
Burial at sea.
You read your residency contract with Ryan Industries? In perpetuity, we're all buried at sea.
The shift from slow character and plot development to action is both well-paced and contextually appropriate. I don't think Campster knows anything about storytelling. Of course, it's also possible that Campster just doesn't think it makes sense that the splicers are insane straight away, and that's a fair argument on the surface. However, even that is fallible. The splicers, by definition, are injecting themselves with Adam. Adam has been stated repeatedly to leave severe physical damage when it runs out, hence why Fontaine and Ryan refuse to use it.
Adam acts like a benign cancer, destroying native cells and replacing them with unstable stem versions. While this very instability is what gives it its amazing properties, it is also what causes the cosmetic and mental damage. You need more and more Adam just to keep back the tide. From a medical standpoint, this is catastrophic. From a business standpoint, well, Fontaine sees the possibilities.
Moreover, as stated before, this place is filled with Fontaine's men. According to Bill McDonough, they were all splicing.
Fontaine knew our blokes were coming. We were done over. Then splicers come screaming out the woodwork. Burping fire, spitting ice. Demons out of the Bible they were. I've never seen nothing like it. It wasn't a business he was building. It was an army.
Given that they're cut off from Rapture, and Ryan is in control of the Atom, they are no doubt suffering the effects of Atom withdrawal, which isn't the same as drug withdrawal. So, in this scenario, it makes perfect sense for these characters to have been driven mad. So, in either case, Campster's argument is wrong. But the main point that I'm getting at here is that Campster doesn't understand how action-adventure stories are written and paced. He sees slow moments rich with character, then tense action scenes, and think that they cannot coexist within the same story, which is a complete fallacy. But back to Infinite.
It's not even that the game suffers from some severe dissonance between its play and its story, although that's certainly here. Booker will be mourning his time as a Pinkerton agent keeping the unions down, or lamenting his involvement in Wounded Knee one minute, and the next he's exploding the heads off of one person or jamming his skyhook straight into the neck of another.
You're omitting loads of context here, Camster. Booker's doing this job because he'll be hunted down by both the men he's indebted to and his employers, which they tacitly threatened to do during the lighthouse scene. Moreover, the military police of Columbia are actively hunting him down, in addition to standing in the way of his goal. Booker doesn't like where he is or what he's doing, but he's trapped in a situation that gives him no other option. A wanted man in a city that wants to execute him without trial. What other option is there? At best, you can make the argument that Booker made various bad choices that kept him locked in his life, but that's the point. Regardless of what path Booker chooses after Wounded Knee, his refusal to accept his own potential for growth leaves him stuck in a world where he's constantly hurting people. The only alternative is dying himself.
You need something, pal?
I don't know.
2 tickets for passage to the First Lady airship.
Yeah, just a minute, friend. Yeah, I have it. How do you, want to proceed?
In a bit of a rush, pal.
Hey, mister, you're gonna get mustard all over your nice suit.
I got it. I'll ring you back once the matter's in hand.
I don't like this.
Yeah, send in the bird. We're ready to execute.
Excuse me, can I get some help here?
Certainly, sir. Sorry about the wait!
What are you doing? Get the girl! Get off of me!
For me.
Kill those people. I can't believe you did that. They're all dead. You killed those people.
Elizabeth,
You're a monster.
what did you think was going to happen?
What?
Do you understand the expense people went through to keep you locked up in that tower? You think people like that are just going to let you walk away? You are an investment, and you will not be safe until you are far away from here.
What do they want from me?
I don't know. But that's the last time anyone gets the drop on me.
Let me see your hand. What happened back there? It's not the last of it, is it?
I don't know.
There.
2 tickets for passage to the First Lady airship.
Yeah, just a minute, friend. Yeah, I have it. How do you, want to proceed?
In a bit of a rush, pal.
Hey, mister, you're gonna get mustard all over your nice suit.
I got it. I'll ring you back once the matter's in hand.
I don't like this.
Yeah, send in the bird. We're ready to execute.
Stay where you are!
Move in!
What are you doing? Get the girl! Get away from me!
Hey, come back here!
You killed those people. I can't believe you did that. They're all dead. You killed those people.
Elizabeth,
You're a monster.
what did you think was going to happen?
What?
Do you understand the expense that people went through to keep you locked up in that tower? You think people like that are just going to let you walk away? You are an investment, and you will not be safe until you are far away from here.
What do they want from me?
I don't know. One thing I've learned. If you don't draw first, you don't get to draw at all.
You're bleeding. Come here. What happened back there? It's not the last of it, is it?
I don't know.
There.
Now, some of you may think it overkill to play this scene twice, even with a mild difference of choice. However, it seems that Cancer didn't understand the severity of the situation the first time Booker explained it, so I find it absolutely necessary. Booker's situation is comparable to that of Darth Vader, who he strongly suggested to hate what he is and what he's doing. By the logic espoused here, Vader is also a badly written and inconsistent character.
But more than just dissonant, the combat feels like empty, pointless filler designed to pad a game out to official retail game length TM. The violence is never at any point sufficiently justified.
To start with, the combat is the story. I know that a lot of people don't think that, so allow me to explain. As I stated in my extra credits video, Infinite is an action-adventure story. Action-adventures progress their plots through physical conflicts. They could be characters stuck in a booby trap, fighting off large numbers of enemies at a time, or simply cornered by some wild animal. In these scenarios, the focus isn't the drama or the inner arc, but rather the actions they take to de-escalate the situation. As a comparison, let's look at Jaws. First, they lay Hooper down as bait to try and skewer the shark with a spear. When that fails, the beast tears into them, devouring Quint and flooding the boat. As the shark gets closer, Martin hurls a scuba tank into its mouth before climbing up to stay as far out of the water as possible. He's all alone, waiting for it to appear. When it does, he opens fire on it with a rifle, shooting the scuba tank and blowing it to bits. There is no drama or retrospection here, only crisis and actions taken to undo it. This applies tenfold to games. Those long stretches of gameplay between cutscenes are a series of unique obstacles, reminiscent of those you would see in ancient mythologies, or else a strong replication of action scenes from a movie. As for justification, Booker is the most wanted man in the city. He's a morally ambiguous anti-hero going up against an unambiguous villain. So everyone here has a motive to fight him, and Booker has a motive to fight back, both to defend himself from them and to save himself from the wrath of his employers and debtors. If you don't like playing this role, fair enough, but to claim that there is no justification is simply you ignoring the context. And this isn't the last time he did this. Let's take a break to look at his Keep Your Politics Out of My Games video. This isn't exclusively about Infinite, so my assessment here will be brief. Ignoring the fact that Campster completely misrepresents the criticisms of blatant propaganda as a childish desire to avoid uncomfortable subjects, Campster once again represents Infinite's story completely inaccurately.
And anyone dissecting them in a political or social or cultural context is just bringing their own baggage to the conversation. But that's just absurd on its face, especially as many of the games that generate some of the harshest criticisms bring their own politics to the table. Bioshock Infinite uses racially charged imagery as a replacement for actually giving Comstock a reason to be an antagonist for the first half of the game.
First off, while it is true that Comstock is politically motivated, Campster is framing it as the game saying, they're just racist, go kill them. No. Comstock wants Elizabeth to complete his plans for him. For as long as Booker has her, Comstock will send his soldiers after them.
Need to head to the roof, take that skyline to Monument Island.
I see every sin that blackens your soul. Wounded knee, the Pinkertons, the drinking, the gambling, and of course, Anna. And now, to repay a debt, you've come from my land. But not all debts can be repaid, Booker.
You don't know me, pal.
Prophecy is my business, Mr. DeWitt. As blood is yours. You know why these men will die for me? Because I have seen their future in the glory. And hence they are content. What brought you to Columbia, Booker? Bring us the girl and wipe away the debt? This will end in blood, DeWitt. Then again, It always does with you, doesn't it? It always ends in blood.
Jesus.
It is one thing to imagine one's future, and another to see it. I have seen the seeds of fire that will prepare the Sodom below for the coming of the Lord. But Elizabeth shall sow those seeds, not I. I will fall before the job is done. But she shall take up my mantle. The Lord is calling me home. I feel his love in every tumor, because they are the train which takes me to his station. And I go with joy, knowing that Elizabeth will take my earthly place. But the false shepherd is coming to lead my lamb astray. I will not board that train until she is safe from his deceptions.
That's my tower.
Lo, while Daisy Fitzroy has murdered my beloved, she shall not have the child. She shall not come betwixt her and prophecy. The seed of the prophet shall sit the throne and drown in flame the mountains of man.
You're Comstock's daughter.
No, I can't be. I can't.
He wants you to follow in his footsteps.
Well, I want a puppy, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna get one.
Moreover, his plans require that Elizabeth's agency be overridden.
Hello.
Hey! Knock it off! Stop it! Will you stop it? Not here to hurt you.
Who are you?
My name is DeWitt. I'm a friend. I come to get you out of
Get
here.
away! Are you real?
I'm real enough.
He's coming. You've gotta go.
Why?
You don't want to be here when he gets here. Just a minute, I'm getting dressed.
Get you out of here.
There's no way out. Trust me, I've looked. Stop it, you're too impatient. That's enough.
What about this?
What about it?
This is the way out, isn't it?
What are you... Give it to me. It's a way out. This way. It's his job to keep me locked up in here.
We'll see about that.
Who are you? Why did you come here? This way, come on!
Wait!
Hurry!
Call the elevator!
What?
Press the button!
What is all this? They were watching me? All this time? Why? Why did they put me in here? What am I? What am I?
You're the girl who's getting out of this tower.
The gondola's coming!
He will abandon you, my sweet Elizabeth. Once he has what he needs, he will leave you alone. What else could you expect from a liar and killer of women?
Comstock.
Father, prophet, whomever you are, I'm leaving, and there's naught you can do to stop me.
Oh, sweet child. That's where you're...
This makes Comstock categorically evil. Racism be damned. And Booker, as stated above, is shooting back both to defend himself and complete his job. While it is true that he doesn't have much more respect for Elizabeth's agency than Comstock does, he has already been established as morally ambiguous, working for a malevolent third party right at the start, so the game knows how he's framed. While I won't deny that there are some attempts at using racism as a shorthand for making a villain despicable, there is far, far more going on with these characters than Campster would have you believe. Most importantly, the men shown in this clip aren't even Comstock soldiers. They're a renegade group following Cornelius Slate, who are also attacking Booker, forcing him to fight them. While they are likely racist as well, they never discuss it. Their only interests are Comstock's historical revisionism and a desire for death by combat. Booker is given no choice but to fight them if he wants to survive.
I served 20 years of soldiering, and every heathen land I've known has less peopled for my passing. I hated no special enemy. Until now. Comstock. He's made a vaudeville travesty of my battles and cast himself as the White Knight. I called him out over it, and he stripped me of my rank. That man has never seen the savage face of war. But he will. Veterans! You shed your heart's blood for Columbia, lost limb and viscera in the godless Orient. Comstock did nothing! And yet, look up! Whose image squats above you even now? At every angle and insult! If the prophet would make a painted whore of our past, what fresh rape does our future hold? Let us now make our stand and fill yonder hole with true heroes! My men and I are doomed. Doomed as noble Custer was at Little Bighorn. But we shall not yield to Comstock and his tin soldiers. But my scout has seen him. Booker DeWitt is coming here to the hall. DeWitt. We called him the White Injun of Wounded Knee for all the grisly trophies he claimed. A man such as he might just grant us the peace we seek.
Our prophet, Father Comstock, commander of the 7th Cavalry.
That man did not lead the 7th. Hell, I don't even remember the guy.
Corporal DeWitt proved his worth on the field that day.
Well, I'll be. Slate? Is that you?
You've always been different, haven't you, Booker? You crave no glory.
Look, I see you're caught up in some kind of jam here. If you could see fit to let us through to where they keep this shock jockey, then we'll...
That tin soldier, Comstock, once my boy's dead, we won't die at his hands.
There's going to be trouble.
All my men have left is a choice. Die at the hands of a tin soldier, or a real one!
Down, fucklord!
You see, you're a killer, Booker. Like it or not.
Just give us the shock jockey.
If you want the vigor, you will give my men a soldier's death. They wait for you in Wounded Knee in Peking.
Oh, I read about this. Comstock led the Columbian troops to Peking.
Comstock wasn't there! The Boxers took my eye and 30 of my friends. Is there even a stone to mark that sacrifice? You see, young miss? You see the man that Comstock wishes he was? A real soldier.
I don't want to do this, Slate. Just give me what I need.
I will. After you do the same for me. Come and look for me in
amongst the ghost dancers.
Who are the ghost dancers?
Wounded Knee. He means us to head to the other display.
Can you hear Comstock's tin soldiers coming to silence us? But we are the true patriots. The history that does not fit in their books.
You were there. At Wounded Knee. I can see it in your face.
Tell her, Booker. Tell her how we strode that battlefield like the heroes of Sparta. I still hear the screams. There's Comstock. Here's the soldier I spoke of. The kind of man Comstock pretends to be. Say if I told you true. You did them a favor, Booker. You let them die like men.
I didn't ask for this. I have no quarrel with these men.
Heroes never ask.
I never claimed to be no hero.
Then what are you? If you take away all the parts of Booker DeWitt you tried to erase, what's left? Come back to the Rotunda. It's almost over.
This is the basic definition of an antagonist. Adding to that, the player is given the choice to spare Slate, in which it is communicated that letting him live is Booker's way of punishing him for the experience.
You're not done here, soldier! Eat everything that's on your plate! Finish it! They haven't changed you, Booker. Not one bit.
Shock jockey. Oh, this better be worth it, Slade.
I suppose it was mercy. Comstock's men would have taken him.
I suppose it was.
Do you ever get used to it? The killing.
Faster than you can imagine.
Is that not cruel? To forbid the mixing of the races. Is that not cruel? To give the vote to the white man and deny it to the yellow, the black, the red. Is that not cruel? But is it not cruel to banish your children from a perfect garden? Or drown your flock under an ocean of water? Cruelty can be instructive.
What could people have done to deserve to be locked up in a place like this?
Fink don't need much of a reason.
No. No, he doesn't.
You're not done here, soldier! Eat everything that's on your plate! Finish it! You're a tin man now! A tin man!
You're spared.
It wasn't yours. Comstock's men will surely take it.
Do you ever get used to it? The killing.
Faster than you can imagine.
I can tell what Slate said bothered you. You showed me. Sometimes you have to do what's necessary to survive.
There's survival, and then there's finding pleasure in the act.
Booker.
Look, you seem like a decent enough sort. That said, the less you know about me, the better.
It's Slate. He looks... You were right. Sparing him was no mercy.
But hey, maybe he just forgot in the time between this video and his initial video. In his original video, he claimed to have played through the game twice before writing and recording, so surely he won't make any mistakes like...
In Bioshock, splicers felt like monsters, but in a way they actually were. They were certainly no longer human and were driven mad either by their genetic modifications, living in a tin can at the bottom of the sea, or simply witnessing the horrors of Rapture's fall. Here, though, there's no justification for why everyday townsfolk will bum-rush Booker with a suicidal fervor and insatiable bloodlust.
Campster. Campster. Campster! Those are soldiers! How? How is it possible to be this brazenly ignorant? You played the game twice and had the time to write, record, and edit this, and not once did you notice the uniforms. Is Campster just telling a lie and praying we're too stupid to call him out on it?